Yeah, a lot of our business, a lot of listeners that are tune in here, they go through this freelancer stage, they go through the solopreneur stage, and then all of a sudden they are the HR, they are the sales team, they are the fulfillment team, and then they're one stage past that, right? There's like 1.5 stage where now maybe they got some help, maybe they got some systems, a contractor, some automation, but they're definitely not like a corporation. They don't have those sort of established layers of people and leadership. And they're also not quite a freelancer or solopreneur where they have their hands on everything or they're able to impact everything themselves through their own effort. And so there's a sort of in between phase. I would imagine that this sort of thinking could really help someone to move from those phases or to be able to go as businesses scale, the things that didn't work for them in the previous stage now might work for them, or excuse me, the things that worked for them in the previous stage might not work for them in this next stage. It seems like that sort of strategy work or that sort of planning could really help people who are going through those sort of evolution.
Completely. Here's a phrase that comes to mind, and I forgot where I heard this exactly, but life is a series of problems to solve. And if you think about it, that's pretty much true. And the way that was shared, by the way, is it's easy to get frustrated when problems come at us because now we have to solve them. But then if you think about it, well, this is just life. You have problems all the time. And the connection here to design thinking is another framework here. And this is why it applies to everything or could apply to basically everything is that the frameworks are almost, there's a word, they're like first principles where they're really kind of fundamental building blocks that you can apply to everything. And you can make them more specific and bespoke to different industries. But one of my favorites is called the double diamond. And this is quintessential design thinking framework. And if you imagine a double diamond, two next to each other with the points touching, one on the left, one on the right, and you fill in, or what you would write in each of these on the left, you write in problems, and on the right, you'd write in solutions. And most people jump to solutions before they even understand the problems. This is number one that I like to teach about like design thinking basics is make sure you understand what problem you're trying to solve. And so and I can fill out a little bit more of the double diamond for you in a second. But for that leader who's growing, you're going to have new problems to solve than you did before. And so you need to understand first, before you try to solve them, what problem am I actually trying to solve? What's the biggest problem? To reference The One Thing, which is a great book. Like, what is the one problem that I'm trying to solve right now that is the most impactful or will make the biggest difference in my business? And we have a lot of other things than just the one, but having clarity on the one will then make it easier to know what are the biggest things I need to do to actually continue to grow and scale my business, what problems do I need to solve? Like, is sales, like, just super simple example. If you're like, well, I'm having trouble paying for a VA because I need a new assistant or something like that because now my email inbox is coming at me and all these problems. I need some help. I need some support. Maybe a VA is what you want to go to next, but you can't pay for it. So maybe your problem is actually you need more sales, or maybe it's you need more incoming, or maybe it's you need something else. And so the process, the other piece of this double diamond is they're diamonds because the first part of the diamond is divergent. It's basically representing like collect information, consider a bunch of things, talk to clients, talk to your staff, and then you narrow down, you converge. So it's divergent and then convergent onto that problem. And then you do it again with solutions. Now, it's obviously way more complicated in reality. It's not a linear process. It's a little more cyclical and messy, but conceptually, it works every time. And I love that mindset. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's really helpful for business leaders to really take away is that how how you think about things is likely not the ideal or the optimal way to think about it, right? That's really what I've been learning in business. And it was very interesting coming from like the world of sports where it's sort of clear and evident. Oh, this person's taller than me. This person is stronger than me. They have bigger muscles or thighs. It's like you could, it's self evident how they are able to perform better. But then you get into business and all of a sudden you realize that someone is simply performing better and maybe they're working harder, but if we take that out of it and all things, everything else is equal, all they're doing is they're just thinking about things differently. They have a different perspective. Or eventually, it's not only them that has a different perspective, it's that they're able to get that team to have that perspective and they're able to multiply that perspective. And so these sort of strategies or ways of sort of, you might be have a better idea of them, but like planning or thinking about your business, being strategic in these ways can sort of help you to provide a different perspective or a different lens over things that you may not see just going through it on the day-to-day sort of basis. Jake, one of my personal fascinations is AI, both because I feel like it's an existential moment and how lucky we are to sort of come around during this moment, even if it is the beginning of Skynet. I'm like, how silly I would be to be there and then, to be up in the sky and the clouds later on. Like, you could have played around with it and tried it. Like, you could have stopped it, but you ignored it. So I look at it as not, maybe it's a necessary evil. And the other side of it, which I'll flavor the conversation with a little bit, is I've seen, and once again, it's one of these podcast statistics, so who knows, but there have been studies presented in the, online of people losing their cognitive abilities after that they're going, like, experiencing cognitive decline after using AI. And so it's this really interesting, sort of dichotomy, really, right? And also, as a business owner, if you're not utilizing and leveraging it, it's also probably very likely that you're getting left behind in some sort of capacity. So how have you been approaching AI, and given all that, what sort of things have you found to be helpful?
Yeah, this is a great question that I've been thinking. I have all the same feelings. Is it Skynet? Am I getting dumber? And I feel like this is what they talk about. The same thing happened when radio came out, but this feels different. But is it different? I don't know. So I don't know how to weigh in on that aspect. But I will tell you, I've been very resistant to AI until, I don't know, 5 months ago at this point, something, or springtime this year. And I don't know what clicked for me. It just felt like I need to try this. It's here. It's not going away, instead of resisting it, because it felt like cheating, or it felt like, I don't know. It's like the buzzy thing. Is this real? I don't know. I can't articulate why, but when I tried it, it started like unlocking all these things for me. And again, that kicked in with my like technology brain. I'm like, why? My like engineering, technology, process driven brain. Throughout my entire career, I have helped do things like this. Like way back, my first job was a childcare company, and I was a receptionist for a period of time in Gainesville, Florida. And we were counting the tills, like where the money's kept, like manually, calculators. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And I was in high school. I'm like, can we use Excel? So like eventually I got them convinced of that. So anyway, this is just an extrapolation off of that. And it was surprising to me that it took so long. And so fast forward today. So I help people build world-class group coaching experiences. And that has to do with bringing people together. And it feels like AI is poised to replace a lot of what we do. Like, can it be a coach right now? Not quite, but like there's some interesting applications that gets somewhere along that trajectory, right? I don't know where it ends, but my question for myself became, how could this enhance the human element of what we're doing rather than replace it? And I'll tell you a little bit of how my wife and I run our marriage. We do what we call our State of the Union, like they're basically like workshops. So State of the Union play on, the presidency, State of the Union, which maybe is a tricky thing these days. That's not why. It's just a fun name. And it's basically a workshop where we can zoom out and look big picture. So you can do things like this in your businesses too, those of you listening, or your marriages. I recommend it, by the way. And one of the main exercises we do is called the Wheel of Life. Now, we call it pillars, but it's most commonly known as the Wheel of Life, which is you take your life into different aspects. Like you have your marriage, you have your kids and your family, perhaps, if you have kids, you have friends, you have health, you have wealth, you have your work, and you talk about those and you rank them individually. So you start individually and you rank them. And then you come together and you talk about where you're different, where the big concerning points are, what's going really well. And eventually it leads to kind of the same thing we were talking about before the break. What do we want to do next? What thing do we want to try next? What experiment do we want to try? What thing do we want to try to improve? Whatever it may be, right? And this has been going great and they work well. And I thought, how could I make this better? Because one of my favorite things to do with AI is help me understand myself better. And I started to form this hypothesis of the main problem getting in the way of most communication that I see, especially with group programs, is people don't understand themselves, what they want, what they value, what their needs are, whatever the question you have for them. It could be as simple as, what do you want to do it could be as simple as, what do you want to do for lunch? Most people don't even know themselves. That's why those conversations are so hard and frustrating so much of the time. And so I thought to myself, how can I inject AI into this process as a proxy for starting to explore more of the professional side? And effectively what I did, I used Claude to build a conversation partner that would act as an advisor, a challenger, and therapist is too strong, but just helping you like poke deeper on some of the responses you're getting. So basically tease up a few things. I won't go through the whole process, but it's basically how things going in general, and it will pull that through to the specific questions. And then it'll ask you for each of the pillars, rank it, and then explain why. And then I have some advisors built in, experts in each of those areas. So for parenting, I love Dr. Becky. I have a Dr. Becky profile. What might she like, what are the things that she cares about that she would help coach somebody on, and like what are her opinions on things, and then use that to inject some questions and follow up. And then one of my favorite things that I found that I didn't expect is it helped, obviously it helped me think through it because we're practicing it before just doing it live. So that's like just a benefit by itself. It's kind of like, hey, drink this pill to prevent a hangover with like a gallon of water. Well, maybe it's the gallon of water, not the pill, that's actually helping you with your hangover. It's kind of the same thing here. Just the practice of talking about it first helps you. But what I found really useful is it gave me really concise and accurate ways to describe what I thought, so I could take it to my wife and we could just get to the point really quick and then dive deep on what we want to do about it, or dive deep into bigger questions. So anyway, to summarize, what I loved about this was it was fun. It actually helped us communicate better because it helped us think first and then find a concise way to communicate to each other. And it actually helped us get the work done faster in a deeper way than we were before, at least in the live portion. Yes, you have to spend some time outside, but that made that live portion. And this, for anybody having a business, anytime you have a meeting, find a way to make that meeting actually worthwhile and maximize the benefit of being live. So if that, like, everybody probably knows that meeting could have been an email. Please don't do those kinds of meetings. Instead, turn it to what actually is useful for having us here that we actually need to talk about. And so anyway, I'm kind of throwing a lot of things out there, but it was great. And now I have all these other ideas on how can we actually enhance human communication by primarily, at least for now, helping us think deeper for ourselves. That's kind of like the bottom line for me, is like the first step for me. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I think the big difference in how I see people not using it correctly, but what there is a difference, and that is that if you can use it to ask you questions and to allow you to think more, as opposed to it telling you what to think or giving you what to write, right? If you can be utilizing, like you said, in some sort of strategic advisory capacity, or to ask you, not just tell you how to, like, what to do as a parent, but like to ask you questions and figure out what's important and who's important, all those sort of things are really helpful, as opposed to just write me an email that, says I want to fire you.
Yes. I was talking to somebody about this the other day too. And I have this opinion that I've been forming more and more lately, that you should not be asking AI for opinions. There might be some ways you can get some useful opinions, but I find every time when I say, okay, well, what about this? And it says, oh, you're right. That's a great idea. And then I go, oh, what about this? A completely opposite idea. Oh, you know what? On second thought, you're right. That's a great idea. And I'm sure there's some ways to design around that, at least to a certain degree. But AI is not actually intelligent. It mocks intelligence, or it is a mock up of intelligence, or a mockery of intelligence too, I suppose, all the above. But that's really hard to keep in mind because it feels like it understands me and it knows, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. It's just filling in the blanks on whatever. It's basically a super advanced autocomplete, right? So
You could probably say this about anything, but South Park has a great episode on that. And that's exactly it. Where I think it's Eric's dad is talking into the AI about business ideas, and he's just like, "Honey, it's just one more thing, one more tweak," and then she finally figures it out, and she, tells it like some terrible idea, and ChatGPT says exactly what he said. He's like, "That's a great idea," and she's like, "We're so screwed," you know.